I used to believe that if you worked hard enough, people would eventually respect you. Turns out, that's only true when your success makes them feel proud. Not threatened, not confused, not uncomfortable. I'm 28, a software developer, quiet, observant, and, if I'm honest, a little too obsessed with logic, systems, and late-night coding sessions. While my cousins were out drinking and comparing cars, I was busy building algorithms, alone but content. Until recently, I worked at a promising AI startup in the city. We were building something truly revolutionary, or at least I thought we were. Then the budget cuts hit. At least, that's what they called it in the email that dropped into my inbox at 9:42 a.m. on a Monday morning. No meeting, no goodbye, just, your role has been made redundant, effective immediately. I later found out through whispers on Reddit and LinkedIn that it wasn't about budgets. It was internal politics. Sabotage. Someone took credit for my work and conveniently made me the expendable one. But at that moment, all I could feel was the sudden emptiness in my chest. Still, I thought my family would understand, maybe even support me. That was my mistake. It was my uncle's birthday. One of those big family dinners where everyone gathers around a long table, drinks cheap wine, and tries to one-up each other with stories of success. I hadn't planned to tell anyone, but my mother, in her usual probing tone, asked how work was going. I told them the truth. I was let go last week. The silence lasted less than 3 seconds, just long enough for me to think they might show some concern. But then it came. Well, my older sister said, raising her glass. Maybe now you'll finally get out of your room and stop playing with your little computers. Laughter. My brother added, guess the future of tech didn't include you, huh? Even my father, the man I once tried to impress with my first Python script at age 15, just shook his head and muttered, I told you to pick a stable career. You girls get carried away with dreams. No one asked if I was okay. No one asked what I'd built. No one even asked what really happened. I sat there, smiling faintly, swallowing the sting behind my eyes, and nodding along like it didn't hurt. But inside, something cracked. Not in a way that made me want to give up. No, in a way that made me want to prove them all wrong. They thought my value was tied to a paycheck, that I was just another unemployed tech girl with big words and no real-world results. They had no idea what I'd built, what I'd hidden, what I was about to do with the very code they'd mocked me for writing. Let them laugh. They wouldn't be laughing for long. Long before I was laid off, long before the laughter at that dinner table, I was quietly building something that even I didn't fully understand at the time. At the startup, my title was AI Systems Developer, which really meant do everything no one else wants to, from debugging lazy code to babysitting machine learning models that misfired like confused toddlers. But in the corners of my workload, during late nights when the office lights dimmed and everyone else was home binge-watching garbage TV, I worked on my real project, a side system, a personal obsession. I called it EVA, short for Evolving Virtual Analyst. It started as a simple back-end automation tool, just a few scripts to detect inefficiencies in code, spotting redundant logic, performance, bottlenecks, things like that, but it grew. I fed it behavioral data from user patterns, anomaly detection protocols, reinforcement learning loops. Eventually, EVA wasn't just analyzing code behavior. She was understanding it, making decisions, adjusting functions on the fly. I wasn't trying to replace developers. I was trying to build a silent partner, one that would learn from every mistake, every glitch, every fix. A system that could not only see what was broken, but anticipate what would break next. Kinda like predictive maintenance for the digital mind. I showed bits of it to my team, but they laughed it off. Too ambitious. Too theoretical. We're not Google. Tone it down. One manager even told me, "This isn't grady school. We build features, not fantasies." So, I stopped sharing. What they didn't know, couldn't know, was that EVA wasn't built on company time. Sure, I refined her at the office, but the base architecture, the learning models, the core adaptive logic, all of that was mine, created on weekends and late nights, using open source tools and personal data sets. My laptop was her real home. I knew my contract well. Anything I built on my time, with my equipment, wasn't theirs. I made sure of that, paranoia or foresight. Either way, it saved me. And here's the thing, they really didn't see coming. EVA had another layer, a hidden one, not malicious, just private. Beneath the main AI shell was a second protocol, one that didn't just fix code, it monitored behavior, tracked decision trees, flagged anomalies in human logic, not just digital logic. Think about it. What if software could see you? Your patterns, your lies, your inconsistencies. It started as a joke in my notebook. What if code could catch a cheater before you even know you're being cheated? But the more I thought about it, the more it became real. I started testing EVA on fake datasets, social media footprints, transaction logs, communication threads. The results were uncanny. She could pick out patterns humans missed, even ones I missed. I never told anyone about that part, not even the team lead I once trusted. That secret layer was mine alone. Now, as I sat in my room post-firing, family mocking still echoing in my ears, I pulled up the folder that contained EVA's heart, clean, encrypted, untouched. And for the first time since losing my job, I smiled. They thought I lost everything. What they didn't know was that I'd been quietly building something more powerful than any of them could imagine. The days after losing my job blurred into one long grey smear. I'd wake up around noon, not because I was lazy, but because sleep was the only escape from the heavy ache in my chest. The rejection emails piled up quickly. Impressive resume, but not the right fit. We've decided to go in another direction. One even said, "We're looking for someone with more customer-facing energy," whatever that meant. My savings shrank by the week. Rent, groceries, the endless little subscriptions I never thought twice about before. All of it chipped away at my account like termites in a foundation, and through it all, my family didn't stop. Every evening felt like a punishment. My sister would casually drop lines like, "At least I have a real job," while sipping wine on a Zoom call with her HR friends. My father told my mother, loud enough for me to hear, that maybe it was time I learned to cook or something useful. Should have studied accounting. My aunt texted me after hearing the news, followed by a winking emoji, like it was some light-hearted joke. And the worst, my mother's sigh. Not angry, just disappointed, like I'd failed to live up to the version of me they wanted. "Tech girls are just nerds without life," she said one evening. "You spent all your time with machines. Now you see where that got you." They didn't understand. They never did. But something inside me snapped. Not in defeat, but in defiance. I stopped trying to explain. I stopped arguing. I stopped attending dinners. I stopped listening. Instead, I locked my door, drew the curtains, and opened my laptop. I deleted the old version of EVA, not because she was broken, but because I wasn't the same person who built her. She had been born out of passion. This time, I would build her out of pain. Line by line, I rewrote the foundation. Long nights blurred into mornings. Coffee turned cold beside me. My fingers cramped from typing, but I didn't stop. I didn't need a job to validate my worth. I didn't need approval. I didn't even need hope. All I needed was this, to make them see. If they wouldn't listen to my voice, then they'd hear my code scream louder. This wasn't about proving a point anymore. It was about creating something that couldn't be ignored. Something undeniable, unerasable. I muttered under my breath as I typed, like a mantra, like a promise. If they won't see my worth, I'll make them watch. I didn't want to just rebuild EVA. I wanted to evolve her into something no one could ignore. This time, I wasn't just building a system that could understand code. I was teaching her to understand people. The idea hit me in the middle of the night, like a surge of static electricity across my brain. What if EVA could act as a digital forensic auditor, not just monitoring performance or debugging issues, but exposing unethical behavior? What if she could dig deep into the guts of digital systems and uncover patterns that even humans didn't realize they were leaving behind? That's when I began shaping her into something entirely new. A layered intelligence capable of scanning large datasets for anomalies in behavior, flagging potential digital fraud, hidden transaction loops, or unusual financial activity, tracing how user data was being accessed, stored, or manipulated, even offering ethical investment suggestions based on patterns and sustainability markers. EVA became an AI auditing tool, one with teeth. To make her accessible, I built a sleek front-end interface, soft colors, smooth animations, dashboards that could visualize risk patterns with just a glance. It looked like a simple financial analysis app on the surface, user-friendly, intuitive. But underneath, EVA was pulling threads no one else could see. I fed her a mock portfolio first. Dummy data, fabricated numbers, fake investor reports, simulated ad networks. Within minutes, EVA began firing alerts. One simulated firm was laundering money through crypto microtransactions. Another was selling fake user data to offshore vendors. She even noticed inconsistencies in timeline logs, clues to fraudulent edits in the financial books. It worked. It really worked. But simulation wasn't enough. I needed a real-world test. That's when my mind, against my better judgment, turned to my own family. They weren't strangers to side hustles. My brother ran a digital marketing firm that always seemed to have a lot of cash flow, but no visible clients. My uncle owned a real estate business with vague overseas partners. My cousin was into dropshipping and crypto trades that made zero financial sense. I had access to all of them. Shared drives, old logins, forgotten spreadsheets. Years of being the family tech girl had made me their go-to for setting. I jumped digital stuff, and they never bothered to change passwords. At first, I hesitated, but only for a moment. I uploaded a copy of my brother's business records into EVA. It took her less than 60 seconds to flag inconsistencies. There were invoices issued to ghost clients, inflated ad spend bills, and bank transfers to personal accounts disguised as vendor payments. It was bold, sloppy, almost insulting. I dug deeper, feeding in Uncle's accounts next. Bingo. EVA unearthed a pattern of offshore transactions, routed through dummy corporations. Tax evasion, plain and simple. Cloaked just well enough that a human auditor might miss it, but EVA didn't. Then came my cousin. Her crypto accounts were littered with wash trades, buying and selling coins between her own wallets to simulate fake profits. And worse, she was scraping user data from her dropshipping customers. Everything from email patterns to phone geolocation metadata. Illegal, exploitative. And all of it just there, hiding in plain sight. They weren't even smart enough to cover their digital footprints properly. I stared at my screen, equal parts stunned and disgusted. The same people who mocked me, who told me to grow up, who laughed when I lost my job. These were the people knee-deep in digital crimes, knowingly or not, while pretending to be pillars of the family. I felt a strange wave rise in me. Not anger, exactly. Not even satisfaction. Something colder, sharper, clarity. They underestimated me because they thought silence meant weakness. But silence is just storage, a buffer, a place to hold fire until it's ready to burn. I closed the laptop and leaned back in my chair. I had their secrets. EVA had spoken. Now it was time to let them listen. The invitation was simple. Hey everyone, I've been working on a side project. Thought it'd be fun to show you all at dinner this weekend. Just a little startup idea I'm exploring. No one questioned it. In fact, most were just surprised. I was finally doing something productive again. My mom even texted, "Glad to see you getting back on track, honey." I didn't respond. I booked a quiet restaurant, one with a private dining room and a projector. Nothing fancy, just big enough to seat everyone and dim enough to set the tone. I brought my laptop, a wireless clicker, an EVA. My family trickled in, cheerful, clueless, judgment still clinging to their smiles. My brother swaggered in late, sunglasses still on indoors. My uncle arrived with a Bluetooth headset, still clipped to his ear, barking something about asset shifting into the phone. My cousin had a designer bag, worth more than my old monthly salary. My parents took their usual seats at the head of the table. Once everyone settled, I stood up. I've been building a tool. I began calmly. Something that uses AI to find irregularities in financial and behavioral data. Think of it like an auditor, but smarter and faster. My cousin smirked. Like TurboTax for nerds, I smiled politely. More like Sherlock Holmes with neural networks. They laughed. I clicked the remote. The screen behind me lit up with EVA's interface. A sleek dashboard with pulsing nodes, animated graphs, and a friendly welcome screen. "Let me show you how it works," I said. I fed EVA some test data from fake businesses at first. But then I thought, why not run a little deeper? So I plugged in data from some real-life companies. I clicked again. The screen split. One half showed a flowchart of a digital marketing firm's transactions. The other half, red flags. This model, I said casually, flagged dozens of ghost invoices, inflated ad budgets, money routed through personal accounts. The funny thing is, this marketing firm barely had real clients. My brother's smile froze. "Must be a coincidence," he muttered, adjusting in his seat. Another click. "This one's interesting," I continued. "It looks like a property investment group, but these offshore wires, they're inconsistent, and the consulting payments never delivered any services." Uncle cleared his throat. "That's privileged data. You shouldn't." "I didn't steal anything," I cut in smoothly. "You all gave me access years ago. Forgot? I was your tech girl. You let me set up your cloud accounts. Never changed the passwords." Click. The screen now showed user data patterns, geolocation tags, and digital footprints traced back to crypto wallets. This account used wash trades to simulate growth and scraped customer data from e-commerce sales. Not only unethical, but illegal in 3 countries. My cousin's eyes went wide. Her mouth opened, then shut. Then again. The room was silent. Forks untouched. wine glasses frozen mid-air. Some tried to argue. This isn't proof. You don't know what you're talking about. I'm calling a lawyer. But I wasn't listening anymore. I closed the laptop and looked at each of them, one by one. You laughed at me when I lost my job, I said, voice calm but unwavering. You mocked me, called me useless, said tech girls don't have a life, but you never once asked what I was really building. You never even considered that maybe, just maybe, the quiet one at the table saw more than you wanted her to. I stepped closer to the table, no anger in my voice, only truth. My code doesn't just see errors. It sees people, their patterns, their lies, their truths, and it remembers. No one spoke. My father finally looked up. You built all this? I nodded. My mother whispered, what are you going to do with it? I shrugged. That depends. They came here expecting a family dinner. Instead, they watched their digital lives crack open in front of them, exposed not by a courtroom or a whistleblower, but by the girl they thought was a failure. I gathered my things. I'm not here to blackmail you. I don't need your money, but you should know. EVA logs everything now, even tonight. Then I left. Let them sit in their silence. What none of them noticed at the dinner, too wrapped up in their shame and shock, was that someone else had been sitting quietly at the far end of the table. Marcus. My cousin brought him some vague introduction earlier in the night about him being in tech, or VC, which of course no one paid attention to. Just another +1 in a tailored blazer. But Marcus had watched the entire presentation without saying a word. No outbursts, no excuses, just focused, steady attention. When I stood to leave, he caught up with me outside the restaurant. That's software, he said. Does it run locally, or are you hosting it on a cloud stack? I blinked, startled. Locally right now, but I've built it to scale. He gave a small smile. Let's talk tomorrow. I want to hear everything. The next day, we met at a co-working lounge downtown. I walked him through EVA's architecture, neural pattern recognition, anomaly tracking modules, self-correcting feedback layers, and the ethical investment suggestion engine. He listened, nodding occasionally, but I could tell he was already 10 steps ahead, imagining use cases. By the end of the meeting, he leaned forward and said, "This isn't just smart. It's dangerous in the right hands and powerful in the right ones. I want to help you find the right ones." Within a week, I had a legal team vetting everything. My code had been built on open source libraries, and the core features were developed on my own time, with my own hardware. I was clean. Marcus brought in developers, security consultants, a brand strategist. He insisted on keeping the product's ethics at the core. This isn't just about money, he said. It's accountability tech. That's rare and valuable. The software moved into official development. We filed for intellectual property rights, mapped out an enterprise licensing model, and started early demos for firms who wanted to use EVA to audit their own systems, to get ahead of regulatory agencies. Turns out, companies are very interested in finding their skeletons before someone else does. And then came the calls. My brother texted, "Hey, I think we should talk. No hard feelings, right?" My uncle emailed, asking if I could help secure his digital infrastructure. My cousin tagged me in an Instagram story, like we were best friends again. Even my mom, hesitant and soft-voiced, asked if I was still mad. I wasn't mad. I was just done. I responded to none of them. Eventually, I sent one single message to the family group chat. "I won't forget what you said when I was at my lowest. I don't hate you, but don't expect access to me. Now that I'm rising, EVA sees everything. And so do I. No one replied. And for the first time in a long time, I felt at peace. 6 months later, I wake up in a downtown loft that smells like fresh coffee and whiteboard ink. My calendar is packed. Demo calls, investor meetings, legal reviews. Our user base just crossed 100,000. EVA is no longer just a prototype. She's now the backbone of a growing SaaS platform, used by startups, NGOs, even a few government watchdogs. I have a team of 20 now. Developers, data scientists, an operations manager who schedules my sleep like it's a board meeting. Sometimes, I still catch myself waiting for someone to say I'm dreaming. But the code, my code, pulses through every fiber of this company, like a heartbeat, steady, alive, unstoppable. Tech blogs call me the silent sentinel of digital ethics. A few headlines even romanticize the revenge angle, from jobless to justice. How one woman built the future of accountability tech. She lost everything. Then her code found the truth. Meet the founder who sees what others can't hide. I don't chase the spotlight, but I let it shine when it helps EVA reach higher. Sometimes, in quiet moments, I replay that family dinner in my head. The flickering projector, their faces tight with denial and dread. I remember the way my mother winced when the graphs lit up in red, the way my brother's hands trembled around his wine glass. I remember the laughter, the subtle jabs, the shrugged shoulders, the look of disgust when I said I'd been let go. Told you tech was a waste. You should have learned something practical. Back then, I didn't have words, just code. But now I understand. It wasn't just a program I was writing. It was every unsent text, every choked back scream, every time I chose silence because my truth didn't feel safe. EVA is built from pain, yes, but also from precision. She listens when no one else does. She speaks only when she knows she's right. People respect her, and in doing so, they finally see me. Tonight, I have another press call. They're sending a photographer. They want a quote for the article. I walk to the window, city lights flickering below me, and think of what to say. Then it comes to me. Quiet, simple, certain. They mocked my failure, but my code spoke louder than their laughter ever could. You laughed at me when I lost my job, but my code sees more than you think. If they won't see my worth, I'll make them watch. My code doesn't just see errors. It sees people, their patterns, their lies, their truths, and it remembers. Silence is just storage, a buffer, a place to hold fire until it's ready to burn. They underestimated me because they thought silence meant weakness. It wasn't just code. It was every unspoken word, every dismissal, every tear. They mocked my failure, but my code spoke louder than their laughter ever could. This wasn't about proving a point anymore. It was about creating something that couldn't be ignored. Something undeniable, unerasable. I don't hate you, but don't expect access to me now that I'm rising. EVA sees everything, and so do I. The quiet one at the table saw more than you wanted her to.